Hi, I am author S.C. Vincent, writer of several science fiction, fantasy, and horror books. You can find me on Amazon.com. If you just type in S.C. Vincent, you'll see several great books, such as The Sakura Element, East the Fallen, and The Arcadian Destiny. And you can even find some of my short stories where I've been published. If you just type in my name, go to my books, check them out. Leave a review, share them with your friends. I would greatly appreciate it, and enjoy the video. Hey guys, it's me, author SC Vincent, and today something pretty cool happened. There was a Nintendo Direct, mostly a indie direct and a third-party direct. I usually don't cover too many video game news or too much video game news, but I thought, there was a lot of stuff here that I wanted to talk about because I really want to play it. So I think I'm going to do a quick video and kind of share my knowledge and about the games that are announced and my history with them. And, you can let me know what you think of them too. So let's go to my desktop right here. And first take a look at my Amazon page, where you'll see I have a lot of books here that are available. We could talk about this later, but first game that was shown was Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake. And with this new version, they are adding a Monster Wrangler vocation, a new job for the characters. So that's pretty cool. So I already have this game on the Switch. So they released this back on mobile. They released the first 3 games on mobile, and then they ported it to the Switch. And they were basic ports. They weren't like the best. They like graphically they weren't very good. But if you wanted to play them on your Switch on console in a modern way, those mobile versions were the easiest and really only way. But now they're remaking these games. They're also redoing Dragon Quest 1 and 2 in the same HD 2D fashion next year. But this year, I think it's being released this year, we're getting Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D. So yeah, it looks like November 14th it's coming out. So having a new jobs and having these new amazing graphics, we'll take a quick look at it right here. It's pretty awesome. Look at these graphics. So you can change their voice, the way they appear, everything. Is that new? Is that Toriyama's artwork? I don't know if that's new, because Toriyama passed away. I don't know if that's one of his, one of the people that work at his studio that draw like him, or if that was one of his final illustrations for Dragon Quest. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know that, because these last couple of Dragon Quest games might have some of his last artwork, along with Dragon Ball Daima that's coming out in October. See, that just looks amazing. Those earlier Dragon Quest games are pretty tough, but definitely gonna check that out, and I think you guys should check it out too. And then the next game is kind of maybe a little weird. I don't know if it's coming out in America or not, but it's a classic game. It was out on the PlayStation, the original one. It's called Tokimeki Memorial. And it's a remake of the original game that came out on, well, I think I already told you, PS1. It's called Forever With You Emotional. It's announced for the Switch to launch in 2025. I think this is a Konami game, if it's the one I'm thinking about. And it was created by the guy who did a lot of the Castlevania games. I think his last name is Iga. He worked on this game with his wife. This is one of his very first games. So it has the original version available, and it has the remake graphics as well. So I don't know, like I said, there's nothing in here about a English version, but see here they updated the graphics. You know, I tend to like very obscure Japanese games because they offer different gameplay experiences that you'll just never get here. You know, in America, it's just like looter shooter, or it's just these third-person shooters, or it's like, hey, let's kill Batman, you know, stuff like that. But these games are kind of like hopeful and charming, and you get that a lot with these kind of JRPGs or simulators or however you want to call it. So I think I might check this game out if it comes over, or I can port it in some English way. You know, if you go on like Play Asia, they'll have like Asia versions that have English subtitles. That's how you can get a lot of these Switch imports. That's where a lot of these Switch collection scene is at. So I think this game looks pretty cool. And then, speaking of Konami, there's the Suikoden 1 and 2 HD remaster that's coming out March 6th next year. Physical pre-orders are open August 28th. I'm definitely gonna check this out. These games, I think this is another Konami. I think I may have said that. Sorry if I'm repeating myself a lot. I had a very busy day at work and I'm tired. But I think this is also a Konami game. This is also, I think, a PlayStation 1 franchise or a series of games. So they redid some of the the graphics. The gameplay looks pretty cool. A lot of cool sprite work. You know, I never played these games when, you know, of course, when they came out. I had a PlayStation 1 for like a week, and it suffered water damage because my brother and sister decided to soak it with water guns. They were shooting their water guns at the TV, and below the TV was the PlayStation 1, and that's how I had a PlayStation 1 for a week when I was a kid. And then I was stuck with the Nintendo 64. So yeah, this game looks pretty cool. 1 and 2. I've never played them, so I couldn't tell you if they're good. I mean, and people say they're good, but in my experience, I haven't touched them. So a lot of people are pretty excited about that. I'll be checking them out for sure. Same thing here kind of goes for Tales of Grace's F remastered. So, you know, I missed this game. I missed some games, you know, you can't play everything, right? And then eventually it's like, this game was on the PlayStation 3. I was also on the Wii. And like, I hated the Wii. And the PlayStation 3, at that time, I was just not interested in Tales of anything. Like, I was playing at that time Metal Gear Solid 4 or something like that. You know, I wasn't playing Tales. But this game, if you look at the trailer, I think it looks pretty neat. The graphics, it definitely has that Wii early PlayStation 3 art style. If you kind of look at it, it definitely looks like that, but cleaned up for sure for this, you know, modern generation. There's definitely some crispness to the design of the characters. They kind of have a little chibi, like a smaller effect to them, but not completely chibi. But this seems like a classic kind of Tales game, focusing on friendship, cartoony art style, things like that. But I never played this one, so you guys tell me if it's good or not. I think my brother played it. He said it was okay. But I will say, so there in this article it says there is specification information, and it tells you frame rate specs and graphics. They will change depending on the platform you play it on. So it tells you here, let's see if I can click it. I don't know how this will show up on the video. So it tells you here Like on Nintendo Switch, it's going to be 30 frames, and on the others, it'll be like 60 frames minimum for the most part. On Steam, you can adjust it. On Steam, the max will be 120. But I think what's interesting is that if you go here on the left side, compatibility. So on the Nintendo Switch section, it says it's Switch-like compatible. That's great. That's good to know for people who want, whatever. And on the PlayStation 4, it says PS upgraded compatible. That's good if you buy the PS4 version and you want to play it on your PS5. And then it doesn't say anything about Series X or S. And then one smart delivery, whatever, Steam, whatever. But PlayStation 5 backward compatible with PlayStation 5 trademark. Now, what is that implying? Like, what do you get from that? To me, because it doesn't make sense. So it's backwards compatible with itself. To me, what that's saying is it's backwards compatible. It's like saying the PS5 Pro can play it, but without saying anything about the PS5 Pro. That's kind of what I think that is trying to say to someone who can read into it, or because it makes no sense otherwise. Like, you wouldn't need to be backwards compatible with yourself because it's playing on it. You know what I mean? But anyways, we'll move on to the next game. This one's not as much of an RPG, but it has RPG elements. Castlevania Dominus Collection. So these are the Castlevania DS games that a lot of people were like, how are they going to put these things on modern systems, because they require touchscreen controls and they have two screens. So especially the sequel to Aria of Sorrow, Dawn of Sorrow, right here on the right side. And basically, the way that they explain they're going to do it, let's see here. First, the screen is a multi-display layout. So you can pick how you want the screen to look, which is great. And then here's the part, controller for touch controls. You can now also use controller inputs for those specific actions. So if I need to draw a sort of pentagram, I no longer need to like use a touchscreen because it's not available. So I can just use like a cursor and just press like the A button on the desired spot. Those parts in Dawn of Sorrow where you need to do that are definitely like the worst parts of the game, but obviously doing it this way will take longer, and you are timed when you do that in the game. So I hope they kind of reprogram it so it's a little bit more forgiving. But I think the best game out of all of these games, like there's a cursor right there if you can see it. The best game here is Order of Ecclesia. And then after this, more or less, the series kind of died. But I think I definitely want to get these games though, because they're still pretty decent. And then one of the bigger games that didn't make it into the Nintendo Direct for English-speaking countries or the West was Trails in the Sky, The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky remake. And this game looks pretty awesome. So I had this one for the PSP, but honestly for the PSP I got pretty bored of playing it because it's 2D on the PSP for one, more or less. It's over the top. It's kind of a slow game and has tons of text. But as you can see here, this version, it still is like a turn-based RPG, but it's way faster. It's there's a lot more going on the screen. The graphics are amazing. It's definitely going to hold my attention more. I'm really excited. Hopefully, they bring all the Trails games to modern systems. I think, especially to the Switch, the first two Trails games are not on the Nintendo Switch. I was looking When I mean, yeah, the first two Trails, not Legend of Heroes. The first two Trails games are not on the Switch. So hopefully they can correct that so you can have all the Trails games on there. Like Trails of Cold Steel I'm talking about. The Trails in these Sky games, I think the second one or whatever did not even get a physical release in the West. Only the first one did. There's a lot of other Legend of Heroes games other than the modern ones. Other than Trails and Sky and the ones that come out after that, there's actually a few ones that came out before that were also released on the PSP. Like Tears of Vermilion was one of them I played. Terrible translation, but it's actually a pretty cool game that I don't think they're ever going to release those games because they seem pretty stuck on the Trails aspect of it. And so now I'm going to show the last the last RPG that was shown at this event, and I love this franchise. I'm playing one of them right now, but it is Atelier Yumiya, The Alchemist of Memories and the Envisioned Land. It was announced for pretty much every system. It's due out early 2025. Now, usually these games are pretty lighthearted. They have a pretty cutesy art style, not very dark, not mature. They can be pretty difficult, like the early ones, because they're timed. You have to be pretty good at the actual gameplay. It looks easier than the game actually is. But in recent years, they've kind of made them a little easier, more accessible to new people. So this game is quite the departure from the other games in that it looks like, first of all, the main character looks much older than all the other characters. The story looks more mature, much more involved, and a bigger open world, stealth mechanics, some sort of looks like decision-making abilities. They definitely changed the crafting. There seems to be hunting. I mean, not crafting, synthesizing. It seems to be more focused on action gameplay when usually it's more of a turn-based combat. So looks pretty cool to me. And that was like the big game for me in this one, in this direct. So that was the Nintendo Direct. That all the games that I'm looking forward to that were announced. So it was definitely something for me that I am interested in. Now, if you want something you might be interested in, I am an author of science fiction, fantasy, and horror. My latest release is the Sakura Element. It is a science fiction, dystopian romance novel where the main character, Okaladale, has to fight for her right to exist in the gentry in a school that discriminates against people that are genetically modified, such as herself. And there's a lot of intrigue, a lot of bad guys that she has to deal with. And one of them is someone who she falls in love with and falls in love with her. And there's a lot of stuff here that I think you'll be interested in if you're a fan of science fiction. And there's horror among my bibliography, and high fantasy right here as well. So if you would please check that out, I would appreciate it. And thank you very much. I'll see you guys next video.